Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello there and a good morning at you. It's a Tuesday, the 20th of March, and my sister Susan is in, I suspect, sunny Southern California as opposed to us. Suze, hi. Susan?
Good morning.
Oh, hi.
Good morning.
I didn't hear you at first. There you are. Hi. How you doing?
I'm here.
Okay.
I think I'm okay.
Okay. Well, I just have, before we get into, because it's a chock full news kind of a day, before we get to all of that, I just found this little tidbit that I wanted to send on to you and any other people that suffer quite a bit from nausea, okay? Nausea, I've often said I'd rather be in pain than have nausea. I don't know about you, given a choice. But
well, yeah, me too.
What? Which would you pick, pain or nausea?
I said me too, nausea.
Oh, nausea. I didn't.
No, pain.
No. Yeah, right. Pain. Anyway, nausea is just awful. There was this thing in the New York Times Science section today which says, take some rubbing alcohol. Just the kind you might have at home. And soak some cotton or anything in it and stick it up to your nose and sniff. It says that is as good as anything that anybody's got. And they've done tests, studies, and they say it works as well as does the kind of stuff they use to control nausea and chemotherapy. So,
wow.
I know, give it a
Thanks
shot.
for the tip.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. I mean, why didn't we know about this?
I don't know. I've never heard of it. That's absolutely ridiculous. And if for people that like me have anxiety that manifests in nausea,
right?
That's a nice thing to know.
Yeah. Just carry around a little bottle of rubbing alcohol.
And then snort it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you just sniff. This for some reason. I mean, the studies were done on people who had severe nausea, medium to severe, and a half hour after. I mean, it doesn't kick in right away. A half hour after sniffing the stuff. Well, actually, no. People who took a drug and sniffed, and people who just sniffed and took an oral placebo, the oral placebo and just sniffing people had more relief. So, I don't know. It's worth a try.
Okay. Well,
I'm just saying.
I'll put it in my quiver of remedies.
Yeah, right. Okay, we got so much garbage going on. It's something. It's so we have a school shooting in Maryland. Not much.
Oh, see, honestly, it's so early here that I don't.
You don't even know that. Well, okay. There's been a school shooting in I believe a high school in Maryland, St. Mary's County, and at this point, we don't know much. Parents are being told to go to another location. There are injuries, and nobody's saying much else. I don't like to say much either, because, I mean, some people start shouting out numbers, this many injured, that many, this, and in the early, moments, you don't know. But it happened apparently about 8:30 Eastern time today. So there's that. There is whatever the hell's going on in Austin. 3 package bombs there, two packages, one a tripwired package, and now a 4th bomb which was at a FedEx facility about an hour out of Austin, but the package that blew up was supposed to be delivered to an Austin address. So there's some serial bomber.
But that's a totally different MO.
Yeah, but no,
totally different MO.
Yeah, but you don't know. It was coming to us.
No, I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting that it's a different person.
Right.
I'm suggesting. Yesterday I heard that they even sent. We're saying to whoever this is, just tell us what you want. And the response was the tripwire bomb. So basically, what he wants or she wants is to kill people. And that's what they want.
And to
that's
play a game with the FBI, which is I'm smarter. Mm-hmm. I'm smarter than you are. I mean, it's the we sort of know the psychological profile of any of these people, but I think my understanding is the FBI tries to. I mean, all law enforcement try to engage the person or lure them out a little bit in hopes of learning more, because they don't have anything to go on yet, apparently. So that's a little disconcerting. Good news here, both a federal appeals court in one case and the Supreme Court in another have turned down Pennsylvania Republicans and their efforts to prevent the new congressional district map from being put into what do you call it? Put into Geez, I hate that when my head goes numb. And you're not helping. Come on.
I'm not helping.
Well, you must be able to know. Your head can't freeze like mine at the exact same moment. Anyway, all these justices said to the Republicans,
Yeah, they upheld the.
They upheld.
They refused. They didn't uphold it. They refused to review it.
That's right.
So
the Supreme Court
refused to review it. It's the same thing as upholding it.
Exactly right.
So yeah.
And in the one case,
Pennsylvania
now has new districts, and that's good because the people who want to run in those districts have to get their nomination papers in, I think, by tomorrow. And it wasn't clear. It really wasn't clear where anybody lived anymore. All the districts have been, we're all in different districts. And if you look at a map of what used to be when the Republicans drew the lines and what is now when the state Supreme Court drew the lines, it's fascinating. The map we have now looks like you'd expect a map to look like. Every district is like a hunk, right there. And the Republican gerrymandered map had districts that were like, just unbelievable, snaking around each other, sometimes narrowing to one house, going over off into and all you have to do is look at those two maps and say, okay, one of these maps has been gerrymandered. The other is a reasonable division. It's so obvious. It's beyond belief. So there's a lot of miserable Republicans in Pennsylvania today, and there is a very good chance that minimally 3 House seats in the U.S. Congress will go to Democrats that had been held by Republicans just from Pennsylvania in the effort to retake the House. So all that.
How do you think the average Republican feels about the way the party has been behaving the last several years, and the way the law views the way their party has been behaving the last several years? I mean, at what point do you feel total shame for being associated with, a group of people that are now just clearly been pointed out to be scofflaws. I mean, they break the law to get what they want.
Right. They cheat.
And I mean, it's clear it's happened. We see their president. We see the way their Congress is acting. We see the way they respond to allegations of criminality. And it's everywhere. How can anybody in their right mind call themselves a Republican?
Well, but you're speaking as a Democrat. I mean,
but I'm not.
No, but you are. You can't.
As a U.S. American citizen.
Susan, I agree.
Like it if the
yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but we have gotten to a point where tribal politics have trumped citizenship. But I don't know. When you said average Republican, you already lost me because I don't know what that definition is anymore.
There isn't one anymore. Well, I don't think any of them are Republican. I think the people I'm thinking of, I guess they still call themselves Republican, but I don't know that they're happy about it.
I mean, they don't have to become a Democrat. They just have to become an independent.
No.
Just get out of that.
Or take their party back, or take their party
back.
Yeah,
the party is toast. What's really more stunning to me, more than the people, are the members of Congress who are Republican, and that there's not really...
Who are clearly not people.
There's not no, they are not people. They are, I mean, craven, self-interested, and definitely not putting their country over their party and their power. And I, even the few that are given kudos for every once in a while saying something, standing up to Trump, even they really, there's not a one that I can look to and say, wow, there's a man or a woman of true principle. I don't know. And then we find out that this Cambridge Analytica thing, which when it first broke, this is the data company that works
was founded by Bannon.
That was founded by Steve Bannon, which is something that I don't see a lot of people saying. The Washington Post had a piece today in which they said that Bannon had some association with it. Are you friggin' kidding me? He was a founder.
It was him and one other guy. They founded it.
He founded it. Now, it gets more complicated. It's really essentially, Cambridge Analytica is essentially a shell company that is registered in Delaware, as any generally criminal outfit is. Man, those Delaware incorporation laws must be...
Fair, Lynn, but
what? I'm telling you,
I
know,
illegal Delaware
I know, but if you're up to no good, what's the state you incorporate in?
Well, I suppose you find among the many, Delaware.
Delaware, that is correct. So it's sort of like all these freighters plying the oceans that, couldn't meet standards anywhere. They're all Panama. I mean, there are places people know to go to get the papers you need to be able to, and you're right, not every Panamanian ship, not every Delaware corporation, but I was hardly shocked when I saw that Cambridge Analytica was registered in Delaware and is almost wholly owned by the Mercer family. The Mercer family, ladies and gentlemen, who single-handedly have helped to destroy American democracy with their ill-gotten gains. They are the ones who have funded even more so than the Koch brothers. They have replaced the Koch brothers in their evil...
Yeah, the Koch brothers seem principled next
to
the
I know,
Mercers.
It is. They seem principled next to the Mercers. Jesus.
Really do.
What the hell? Unbelievable. And anyway, so this shell company is holds the intellectual property rights to all this psychographic crapola that they have used in their propaganda wars. But the company itself, where the people work, is in London under the name SCL. So that Cambridge Analytica is a subsidiary kind of shell company. And when it was founded with the Mercer money, Steve Bannon was one of the founders. We know Steve Bannon and Mercer, and then on top of it, there's also a Russian scientist. You know, when the book finally gets written, I don't know if I'll ever be able to even comprehend the level of chicanery and criminality afoot in this whole horror show.
Well, and it's been going on for, I mean, with the Trump family, it's probably been going on for decades. So, you know, there's a lot to uncover.
So for those of you who didn't see it, I want you to make an effort. There is a network in Great Britain called Channel 4, not to be mistaken with our WTAE television here. Channel 4 in England is a private, the private network as opposed to the BBC. And they have a blockbuster. Did you see it, Susan?
I did.
Yeah.
I watched it last night.
It's a 20-minute piece that they did undercover. It was a sting. What I love about it, it was the journalist stinging the stingers. They did the same kind of thing to the... They
did the same kind of thing that
they do.
That awful person.
Yeah, Nix.
With Planned Parenthood.
Oh, right. Yeah. But that's not what I'm talking about. They uncovered Cambridge Analytica's top 3 guys themselves, incriminating themselves because
right.
This is what Cambridge Analytica was bragging to the Channel 4 reporter about, how they get politicians to do what they want them to do. They use undercover, they film surreptitiously. They get pretty Ukrainian call girls to show up in places. They always have cameras, or they get someone posing as a land developer, come in to, let's say, a presidential candidate and say, look, I'm willing to give you, some astronomical sum of money if you will ensure that I have access to that parcel of land that I want to put a building up on. Meanwhile, that's all sham. They wait until the guy agrees. There's a handshake, and they've got it all on tape. And then they blackmail. So the Channel 4 report has these guys, the head of it, this Nix, who's going to be going to jail, the chief executive, bragging to the Channel 4 reporter who is posing as a possible client who wants them to work on an election in Sri Lanka. And the back and forth is mind-blowing.
My favorite part was when they were talking about, how they would use women, and the person who's the stinger is going, you aren't going to use
Sri Lankan women, are
you?
Women
from his country.
Right.
Women from his country. And
no.
That's when they said, oh, no, we bring in Ukrainians. And they go, oh, they're pretty Ukrainians.
Yeah, they're pretty.
And the conversation is like...
I know. And the other one says, Nick says they get the job done. If you haven't seen this, find it on the internet. Check it at, and I have to tell...
Or you have a Ukrainian girlfriend.
Listen, I have to tell you. There's part 2 coming out tonight in England. So in a few hours, I suppose, they're 6 hours ahead of us. I don't know when this would be prime time in England tonight. Channel 4 has part 2. They haven't shown everything they got. And my understanding is that part 2 will have a lot more about what these guys did in the United States for Trump. We already have Nix, the CEO, bragging publicly about essentially helping to win the election for Donald Trump. So we've got Russian bots and the Kremlin helping Trump, spreading disinformation. And now we've got Cambridge Analytica explaining in detail what they did. We now have Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook pulled into this because Cambridge Analytica got the raw material to get at Americans through Facebook.
Facebook has been I mean, let's talk about how naive the people, maybe it's not good if everybody running your company is under 35.
Well, I thought you were going to say maybe it's not good that you, average Joe America, chooses that way to share information with your friends and family.
No. Well, I will say I posted something yesterday. Yeah, I posted something yesterday saying, perhaps this is the signal that we should all just
get off.
Say goodbye to Facebook.
It's
over. Get off.
That's right. Go
Bye.
back to, you want to tell somebody something, call them. Even text them. Write them a letter. See them in person. Let's go. But we're finding out that this Brave New World is a horror show. It's a horror show. It gives you the sense of closeness and ability to communicate. But I heard a reporter say something that I thought was just ingenious because we forget this. He said, look, anytime something is free, and Facebook is free, right? You don't pay to have a Facebook account. Anytime something is free,
they're making money off you somehow.
They're making money somehow, and you know how? When something's free, guess what? You are the product. You are what is being bought and sold. Access to you, to your thoughts, to your purchases, to everything. It's you who are how Facebook makes money because they allow these third parties to come in and scoop up information about you. It's not, I remember thinking, oh my God, that's right. So anytime there's something free, ask yourself, there's nothing free. When something's free, you can bet that you are being bought and sold in some manner. And it might seem like, oh, so what? I get all this. Well, now you're starting to see, so what? You can watch your democracy get taken away from you, just pulled out from under you like a rag rug. I don't know. I don't know. Listen to some of what's in the piece. Here are the guys from Cambridge Analytica. Again, Steve Bannon, interestingly. Oh, guess who else was on the initial founders list? It was Steve Bannon, and guess who else? A certain general named Flynn.
Oh, yeah, it was Flynn.
It was Flynn. He's now
Michael Flynn, who was railroaded and was a good guy, and the only reason he confessed is to protect his son.
Yeah, right. Oh, sure. So you've got these same characters popping up over and over again, and if you think all of this isn't part and parcel of what Bob Mueller has on his desk, this just makes Richard Nixon and Watergate and their dirty tricks look like, it's so cute. It's Nixon. It was just so
right.
Sweetly.
Right. They just broke in and took a file cabinet.
Yeah, and they sent out little pamphlets that weren't really true, and they pretended it was like child's play. So here's what some of these guys, the top dogs at Cambridge Analytica, are telling this reporter posing as a potential client. Now, granted, many of our clients don't want to be seen to be working with us, to be working with a foreign company. So that's no problem. We can set up fake IDs. We can set up websites. We can be students doing research projects attached to a university. We can be tourists. There's so many options that we can look into. And then the really...
I think they called it ghosting in and ghosting out. We can ghost in and ghost out, and they don't even know we've been there.
That's right. And then they talk about, they talk about how they get a politician. And you wonder, how many politicians in the United States have they essentially bribed? Or blackmailed, terrorized? How many? I feel that Trump is one of them, and that's from the Kremlin. But I don't know. They also flat out said, and I don't know if I can find again, chilling, but something we know. They talk about how their tactics, when they're mining all this information and the psychology of you, they're looking to see what scares you. And they flat out say, sometimes people don't even know that they're frightened about something until we tell them. This is scary. And they flat out say the way you win is not with facts. You don't win by having a better program or this and that. You win by channeling their emotion. Now, we've seen that being played out in our own politics, and I have said ad nauseum for a million years that the Republicans have always employed the tapping into the easiest, most reptilian emotions, and that is fear and anger. And that's how they win. They always have to have scapegoats to be afraid of or to be angry about, whether that's gays in the past, whether it's immigrants now, whether it's black people, it doesn't matter. That's how they know to rouse their voters, through fear. And this guy flat out says, yeah, it's not about facts. You got these idiot Democrats standing up there saying, and I will do this, and the program I have for that. And they lose, because they don't understand that people don't vote with their heads. They vote with their emotions. That's all rather depressing, I must say.
Well, we all vote with our emotions, but some of us vote with positive emotions and some of us vote with negative emotions. I don't think you can, claim to ever take it out of anything. You need emotion to get your voter up off their tush and into the voting booth. So, emotion is necessary. What we're quibbling about is which emotions we deem appropriate to use thusly.
Right. Michelle Goldberg in the New York Times obviously saw this and either wrote very quickly or this piece, or because it just it's just from last night, or she was given an advance copy. And in part, she says this. This is the quote I was looking for. This is the CEO saying, "We are thrilled that our revolutionary approach to data-driven communications played such an integral part in President-elect Donald Trump's extraordinary win." That was a news release that the company put out the day after the election. And she goes on to just catalog. So Trump's campaign had a huge and global crew of high-tech, dirty tricksters. We know that Cambridge Analytica reached out to Julian Assange, there's another one, about finding and disseminating Hillary Clinton's deleted emails. We know that Robert Mueller, the special counsel, has asked has asked Cambridge to turn over documents related to the Trump campaign. And Channel 4 News plans to air additional undercover footage about Cambridge Analytica's role in the Trump campaign tonight.
Yeah, so what do we need Mueller for?
Well, we do. We do. You got to believe he knows all this stuff and more. That's my bet. But it's such a pile of crap and horror of parasites and cockroaches and vermin that to put it all together in some, to neaten it up. And I can't imagine. I mean, I don't know how Mueller or any of the people working on this, how they sleep at night. Their heads must just be spinning. Anyway, Goldberg notes that, it's so weird because on the one hand, the Trump administration seemed like a bunch of idiots. On the other, she says, they won. Which makes it seem as if they must possess some sort of, I don't know, occult genius? Or maybe the secret of Trump's success is simply cheating. He and those around him don't have to be better than their opponents because they're willing to be so much worse. I think she's on. I think she's on to something. Oh, dear, 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 dear. So, fasten your seatbelts. Trying to think what else so I'm back sort of looking at Twitter, and I'm so far so good. I seemingly can do it without getting flipped out. But one of the things that really stunned me was this weekend when a former head of the CIA, John Brennan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, think of who CIA guys are. They're guys who keep their own counsel. These are guys that don't act out in public. And to see that Trump has made somebody like John Brennan have to go on Twitter and respond to this tweeting president. And his tweet, John Brennan's tweet this weekend, do I have it all here? Yeah, maybe. It says this. He's talking to Trump. When the full extent of your venality, moral turpitude, and political corruption becomes known, you will take your rightful place as a disgraced demagogue in the dustbin of history. Wow.
Yay!
Wow. We got a call. Hello, caller.
Hello, Lynn.
Yeah.
I got stupid call waiting going. But, off in another. Okay.
Hello.
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 Hi. Hello?
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, what I wanted to say is I don't understand why you were talking about this stuff about this basically lies that they do. They could start with these television ads is and Democrats, when they get in control again, pass laws that when you put an ad up and it's got lies in it and they correct you, you have to put another ad to say this was a lie. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that needs to correct a lot of this stuff. Like that lamb commercials and some of those ones they had on. Any of these politicians that have ads that are just false, make them correct it. Say, yeah, you have freedom of speech, but you can't. It's got to be facts. You got to have facts to support it.
Yeah, it is amazing.
I just don't get it.
It is amazing that the FCC.
How they get away with it?
Well,
every year, every election, same thing.
Stop and think about it. The FCC will go batshit crazy if somebody says shit on their air. If somebody says batshit on their air, that's like, you can't do that, you will be fined. But they absolutely look the other way when our airwaves are polluted by politicians flat out lying to the American voter. It's
Right.
interesting. It's interesting. And this because, well, there's freedom of speech.
There's freedom of speech. I was just going to say that. The First Amendment does not
Say it has to be
limit
true.
your one's ability to lie, except insofar as the lies are slander or libel. You're pretty much allowed to say whatever you want.
That pesky First Amendment, I'll tell you. But it would seem that it should allow people to say fuck then, too. That's my First Amendment, right? Where'd that go?
Well,
Yeah?
that's the FCC. So yeah, I mean that's because that's considered unprotected speech. I don't know why a provable lie can't also be unprotected speech.
Exactly.
But it is, because then you sue for slander.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so we're in a I felt, Susan, you weren't, assaulted by these ads that we were in southwestern Pennsylvania during the Connor Lamb race that was bought by millions upon millions of Republican money. They were vile, and they were filled with lies. And I really felt, and I saw that some other, pundit types have said the same thing, that the onslaught of those ugly ads turned people
Backfires.
off. They really backfire. And that's what happens when national outfits who don't know anything about the people of a district come in with all their money and their analytics, and it blew up in their faces. It didn't help their candidate. It hurt them. So that's the good news.
Well, at some point, people get insulted that they're supposed to that stuff is supposed to make them do one thing or another. If it's so vile, it becomes insulting.
Yeah.
That someone would think that would appeal to you.
Right. I agree. So that's that. Our caller's gone, right? Yeah. Okay. As well he should be. I just didn't hear him
someone
go.
waiting. He had to take that other call.
Oh, I didn't hear him. Anyway, there's again, I want to tell you Facebook people, and I think it's most people on Facebook. I know I have an account that is because of this show. I have to tell you, I never look at it. So I don't, I always say I'm not on Facebook, but I'm not, because I don't personally ever go on. I don't have a friend that I've, friended. I don't have anybody. So my crap's not out there. I am on Twitter. But again, beware. You're being bought and sold. And the way Cambridge Analytica took, they put, how many of you have seen these like personality tests, IQ tests? What fun. I've taken tests online about showing what political candidate you should vote for because you're most like this, and it always turns out to be somebody that I wouldn't. I mean, we like, because it's sort of self-involved, right? Oh, let me see where I would come down on this. And here's a question. Why would Cambridge Analytica be able to use some silly personality quiz to collect information about millions and millions of Americans to influence you to elect Donald Trump? The question is, why else would the quiz be there? I mean, these quizzes are there
because that's how they get access.
They're fishing.
They get access to your friends.
Right. They are fishing expeditions. And how readily we all bite. So every time you're about to bite, ask yourself, is this really necessary? I wonder what nefarious, outfit is wanting this information. And these third-party apps, that's how Facebook makes money. I mean, Zuckerberg, what? I heard he lost $7 billion yesterday on paper. I mean, so what? It's just,
I'm sure. Did you see what the markets did?
Yeah, it went kaplooey. Yeah. So third party, but this is how he makes his money. By people like Cambridge businesses like this collecting vast amounts of detailed information from Facebook users who he hands over to them. I just, I don't understand this kind of.
Repeatedly, he teaches people how to mine his pages for Facebook for this kind of information. I mean, that was one of the earliest things that came out months and months ago, that they had their people teaching Russians how to
use
how to work through these things. Yes.
Yeah.
How to maximize their response rate or their effectiveness on Facebook. They taught them how to do it.
So even as we speak, there are these third-party data collectors vacuuming up, hoovering up intimate details about you and your friends and your family, and all that data never disappears. It's collected and held, and Facebook has no real recourse to stop it from falling into the wrong hands or being used for undermining democracy, for instance.
No, wait a minute. Let's talk about who has recourse. We have no recourse, because the minute you put a picture on Facebook, they own it. You don't own it anymore, they own it. And you're right, you can get off Facebook all you want, but what you put
out there is there.
Remains. I mean, other people might not be able to see it, but they still got it.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So you have no recourse. I have a cough drop because I'm choking.
Okay. By the way, another story that has an impact here in Pittsburgh on this day when there's just tons of breaking news is that a woman was killed, I think in Arizona, because a self-driving Uber, it looks exactly like the ones all over our streets here in Pittsburgh, ran her over. And that is the first pedestrian death resulting from a self-driving vehicle. And you will not see any of those cars on the road here today or tomorrow or the next day. We'll see how long they stop. The difference, I guess, is in Arizona, they do allow the cars to drive, I think, without a human in them. Although I think in this case
there was no human.
No, I think there was, though, a human in this vehicle that did this. I don't know. But here, you can't. You have to have a person in the driver's seat, even though they're not driving. But if something were to go wrong, like if you would be able to take control immediately. But so all those...
but that's almost impossible. That's an impossible task, to pay attention and not do anything.
It's tough.
So to constantly pay attention as if one is driving
when
while
you're not
driving is very difficult.
Right. So anyway, they are a regular sight here. Susan's nephew and his wife were here last week. They live in China. They came in for the ceramics conference at the David Lawrence Convention Center, and we were walking around, and I said, "So have you seen the self-driving cars?" And they said, "No." And I said, "You haven't seen those big, gray, like SUV-looking things with a spinning thing on the top?" And then they said, "Oh, yeah, we've seen those." I said, "Well, those are self-driving cars, even though there's a person sitting there. That person ain't driving. So they said, wow, yeah, we saw that. He couldn't figure out. I mean, they really, when you first see him, you think, what the hell? Oh, boy. So this shows how that technology is not quite ready for prime time. And back, Susan.
Yeah, I mean, they can't expect it to be accident-free. I mean,
cars now
although
aren't.
that's the theory, that they're safer.
Right. Oh, geez. I mean, the thing is that the sense is that machines driving a car will prove to be safer than humans. And my bet is that's true, seeing as how so many humans drive and how distracted they are.
Theoretically, right. Theoretically, they can't be distracted, but obviously they can make mistakes.
Yeah.
And
it's
my car has a radar thing on it that, and it always amuses me. It's the same thing. It's driver assist. It's looking for me, but in the worst weather, like when it's snowing or blizzarding or windy, it frequently goes out. It says driver assist not available because it's
for whatever reason, right? So it's not ready. I mean, most new cars, I have a new car, and it's got this nonsense in it that, I tend to ignore, but all of a sudden, if I maybe get a little too close to a car when I stop, this alert will come on. Ah! The car freaks out. So these cars, little by little, are taking control in as much as we want to give them control away from us. Suze, I just want to share, if I may, some of the words of a sophomore high school student here in Pittsburgh who wrote a piece about school shootings for our local paper. And, I mean, it's hard to believe this kid is a sophomore in high school. My God, he's just so smart and so brilliant. His name is Devan Mangalamuri. Oh, boy. Whatever happened to Bob Jones, for God's sake? Devan Mangalamurti. Sophomore at Barack Obama Academy of International Studies in East Liberty. He's also, not surprisingly, the editor of the school newspaper. And this kid...
As a sophomore.
As a sophomore,
guys.
As a
That's
sophomore.
something.
Yeah.
That's something.
Oh, yeah. I think he's running circles around everybody. Good God, kid. Wow. But he wrote a piece, and he said what he has noticed, and I hadn't, but I guess he's right. Or somebody must have done some due diligence. All these school shootings happen in rural and suburban schools. They do not happen in cities. Think about it. They do not happen
No,
in...
it's true. City violence looks different. Yeah.
Well, here's what he says. I ask why there has not been a single successful mass shooting at a city school in this country for half a century. I mean, he did his homework. And I'm not going to read his whole thing, but I'll just pull some. He really makes a good case. He says, I think people assume that cities are unsafe to begin with. That's certainly the assumption of people who live in suburban and rural areas, right? Their idea of a city is scary. Oh, it's scary. It's dangerous. Right. So he says, okay, so people assume that cities are unsafe to begin with. And because of that, security measures are heightened in cities. He says that's why my high school has 3 security guards, 2 metal detectors, and a policy of not putting plastic knives in the cafeteria. And he talks about the fact that he has to go through, every student goes through, they have to, their backpacks are, I mean, they have real security because they live in a city where people are aware that things can be dangerous. And he says, and the second reason for the safety of urban schools is just as basic as the first. America as a whole is addicted to guns, says this kid, but its cities are not. And he's right about that, too. The gun ownership rate of people who live in cities is way lower than the gun ownership rate of people living in suburban and rural areas. And he says the nation's cities have accepted that having harmful substances off the streets is safer for communities, safer for families, and safer for students. And he says our callous lawmakers, though, let the weapons equivalent of fentanyl, bump stocks, assault rifles, they let it loose in small-town America. The nation's cities aren't behind this. And American cities, he says, have laws that make it long and an onerous process to get your hands on a gun. And he says, most weapons used in shootings in a city like Chicago are brought in from other counties or towns that have more relaxed gun laws. If you let urban people really call the shots here, no metaphor intended.
They come in from Indiana.
Yeah, sure.
In Chicago, they come in from Indiana. It's a 20-minute drive, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, this kid's really amazing. I had not thought of that. These shootings don't happen in urban America. This is a plague on suburban children and rural children. And just a few more words from him, from Devon Mangalmurthy. For as long as I can remember, I have watched news footage of school shootings. You can imagine, if he's a sophomore, he grew up with this, right? He never knew a time when this was not normal. And I heard the wretched, scarred testimony of survivors. But until this year, I have never acted. Like most people in America, I always found myself gripped by cynicism, by a lack of hope that our country would ever free itself from its addiction to firearms. The media always moves on, and people are quick to forget. Now, though, I truly believe something has changed. America is more outraged and more resolute than it has been for half a decade, and the collective assumption we make about the permanence of kids dying at school looks like it might be crumbling bit by bit. We owe it to the dead to make sure it stays that way.
Yeah, we do. We owe it to our kids. I don't understand how we have found ourselves in a country where people will just stare back at you when you say, why are dead kids just collateral damage for your hobby?
Yeah. Right. Well, because they really think,
by right.
Yeah, but they really, the way they look at it is, it really isn't the gun, it's the person holding the gun.
No, it's the person can't do anything without the gun. The gun can't do anything with the person. It's a bad team. That's just a stupid thing to say. And what we've got is a situation where these people just pushed way too far. And now we really do have to figure out how to get rid of these guns. Because there are way too many out there, and they have already flooded us with them. So what do you do if getting rid of them is not an option? Why shouldn't it be an option?
No, Susan, we just arm the teachers. Arm the teachers.
Well, I'm just going to the other end. I'm going all the way to confiscation and hunters. I'm not kidding. We're going to have. I want everybody to put their guns in the Central Armory. You can have a key. You can go in and get it whenever you want. But because we tried it your way, and your way doesn't work.
Well, unfortunately, there's this Second Amendment. These amendments
I'm not
are.
saying people can't own guns. They can own guns.
Well, the Second Amendment even. I don't know. Our founding fathers, this was a different time. Can you imagine? I mean, anyone who thinks that if they knew that you could mow down, tens, scores of people in mere seconds, all they knew was a musket. And at best, what you could maybe fire off 2 shots in a minute, maybe. I don't know. Incredible. So, just one other thing that I want to note. It is a little thing that I read in the Saturday local paper, and it's about the CEO of. I believe this is the largest natural gas company in the country, EQT. Used to be Equitable. EQT. This guy's name is Schlotterbeck. Stephen Schlotterbeck.
You're having good names today. Okay, go ahead.
Stephen Schlotterbeck, and he shocked everybody when he just mysteriously last week left. And because everybody's saying, oh my God, he must have groped somebody, or how the heck, what happened? And so he took to social media, and he said, it was just a plain vanilla disagreement between me and the board on my value to the corporation. And what he meant is he wanted more money than they were willing to give him. And it's not known how much he is being paid this year. The last time we know what he was being paid is 2016. He got $6 million in direct compensation. You can bet there was a lot more on top of it. And his current contract allows that if he resigns for good cause, he will get a $3.4 million golden parachute. If, on the other hand, his departure is deemed to be without good cause, he still walks away with $1.3 million. Can you imagine being able to have a contract where you say,
I quit with no good cause. Okay, I'll pay you almost $2 million.
Can you imagine? And here is this jerk. How out of it is he that he left in a huff because they weren't willing to, and probably, I don't know if that would be considered good or bad, a huff, whether he's going to get the 3.4 or the 1.3 on his way out. But this is on top of God knows how many stock options, God knows how many this is and that, $6 million a year or more, because those figures are a little dated. And it just, to me, I looked at it and I thought, jeez, what is with people? God.
Well,
I don't know.
Those yachts the size of ocean liners are expensive.
I guess keeping up with the Joneses when you're in that strata. Yeah. And apparently he wasn't as well paid as some other guys in holding the same position in companies that weren't even quite as big. And that must have gotten him real miffed.
No, I think $6 million base salary is actually
low.
Sounds low. I know that sounds stupid. Yeah.
How's he supposed to scrape by on $6 million a year? Well, I don't know. Anyway, he's gone. Aw. So.
I'm sure there's someone willing to.
Yeah.
Pay him more.
I bet he'll land somewhere. Yeah.
What do they know? I mean, what? I have no idea what these people know that makes them worth this kind of
You
money?
tell me. It doesn't. It's just they're all in this little cabal together. All these boards are made up of other CEOs. They all just take care of each other. It is such a despicable... Yeah, I'll tell you, American capitalism. Ay, God. It's a wonder we're not all walking around with Mao's little red book. All right, that's it. Suze, we're done. Whoops, we're done. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, bye. Jeez, that was quick. Did you notice Ernie didn't bark at all? Oh, Ernie now is a good dog. He got back from boot camp, and he's a good dog. All right, guys, that's it for me. I'll see you tomorrow, I hope. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.